Hello everyone and welcome to part 13. Now in this part we are going to create the progress bar. And I just went ahead and loaded some sprites, which is the bar background, the bar itself, which consists of three parts, the starting, the middle part and the ending part. Then there is this glow, which is just to make the bar look fancy. Now, as the origin is mid-center for the globe sprite, and its middle left for the bar itself, and its mid-center for the bar. It's very important to pay attention to the size of these sprites. Now, this sprite, the bar itself is 300 pixels. Now I might see that it says 312, but this is this white border. The bar itself is 300 pixels. And the bar parts, the starting part and the ending part together is 12 pixels because the width is 6 here. And we are going to extend and shrink this middle part to represent the bar, which means we can stuff a certain amount of pixels inside the bar, 300 to be specific. Which means if we divide 300 by 6, it will give us 50. Yeah, 50 times 6 is 300. But because we have a starting and an ending part, it means that's 50 minus 2, 48. Which means we can put only 48 middle part to fill this bar. I hope this is understandable. So I'll just go and close these. And if you come to object brain, I'll put them inside here. For this, I'm going to need some variables. Now, first we must understand the mechanics of the game and how we want to progress through the game. Now, obviously, for now, the win condition is the points. If the player gets a certain amount of points, we want him to progress to the next level. But how to tell the levels what is the target point? Well, here we are going to add a variable that states that. So we want to say target candy points, which is the target that we want to reach, equals 100. And now I went ahead and said 100. I was not going to hardcode this because later on we will draw this value from a file, and any file, or I don't know, a save file, a data file. Then we need another variable. The second variable is going to determine how many points we give per candy, per each candy that gets destroyed. And this is very important. You see, right now in object candy, we are giving 1 whole point for each candy. And this is not practical. Why? Because let's say that we have a 100% progress bar. If we give 1 point per each candy, it means that the maximum amount would be 100 candy. But what if we want the maximum to be 500 candies? Then we cannot give a whole point for each candy. We cannot extend the progress bar. So obviously we want to change this number. And for that, we add a new variable. And the variable would be, for example, candy point. Now, candy point equals to how much we want, how many points we want to give per each destroyed candy. Now, since our progress bar is 300 pixels, and we can stuff only 48 progress bar. You remember we divided 300 by 6, it gave us 50, but because we have a starting and an ending part, we only have 48 empty spaces. So what we want to do is we want to divide the 48 by the target candy points to tell us how many points we can give per candy. So this makes things dynamic. So if I change this to be 500, it will just basically divide 48 by 500 and tell me how many points I can give per candy to reach this destination. And I'll set this back to be 100. All right. Now, in the draw event, we have these draw text. We are going to draw the progress bar here. In order to draw the progress bar, we need some specific values. Now I want to draw the bar exactly in the middle of the room, not vertically but horizontally. So I want a variable and I want to call it, for example, midpoint. And I'll set midpoint to be room width divided by 2. Obviously, I could just use this inside the draw event, but I really want this to be here. Then I'll add another variable. Now, since we are going to draw this in the middle of the room, I want the starting point of the bar. So when this gets drawn, I want to know where is the starting point. You understand? So that's actually easy. Because we are going to draw this in the middle of the room, we only have to subtract 150 pixels because this is the origin is centered here. So we can easily say start point equals midpoint minus 150. Great. Then I want the Y position, and I can easily say bar Y position equals, let's say 50. Actually, let's make it 80. Then we come to the draw event. Here we are going to draw some sprites. Obviously, the first thing we are going to draw is the background, the sprite background. So we will say draw sprite, bar background, which is this. 0, the sub image would be 0, the first sub image. There are no sub images here, so it doesn't matter what we put here. Then we say midpoint, which is the middle of the room. Then I set not 50. We give it the Y position. Then we are going to draw the bar itself, the red part where it represents the progress. So we want to say draw sprite bar. The sub image would be the first one because you remember here we have 3 parts. The first part is 0, then the first one, then the second one. So first we draw the starting part. So sub image 0 at the starting point, which is midpoint minus 150 pixels, then at the Y position that we have. Then we are going to draw the middle part, which is realistically the progressing part. And we want this to be very dynamic because this is how we represent the progress, obviously. So we want to say draw sprite extended, then we say sprite bar, the first sub image, starting point, then we are going to add 6 pixels because we don't want to draw this over this one, this part. We want to add 6 pixels. You know, the width of the sprite is exactly 6 pixels. So we say plus 6. Then the Y position, then we add a new variable and call it scale. Now this scale, what it does, it actually makes the sprite extend and shrink. This is the X scale. So we can easily just extend the X scale to represent the width of the bar. And this sprite specifically can be extended. This middle part can easily get extended. Great. So we set the x scale to be scale, the variable that we are going to change whenever we destroy a candy. Then the y scale, we don't want it to change, so we say 1, the rotation would be 0, image blend would be image blend, then alpha would be 1. Then we are going to draw the ending part. Now the problem with the ending part is when this extends, we want the ending part to follow. So how to do that? Well, first we should draw it at this point. Start point plus 6 plus 6, another 6, so we say plus 12. Then we draw this, but this is going to extend because scale would be extending. So in order to go around this, we can easily say draw sprite bar subimage 2 starting point plus 6. We pay attention, we didn't write 12 here. Why? Because the scale starts at 0, which means that we are not going to draw this at the beginning. So I say plus 6 plus 6 times scale. So the scale is 0 now, so we add nothing. And if the scale is 1, then we add 6 pixels. If the scale is 10, we add 6 times 10, which is 60 pixels. You see how smart is this? Then we put the Y position, obviously. Then I'm going to draw the glow, and the glow would be just above the ending part, just to add a fancy thing. So for that, we'll say draw sprite glow, 0 subimage at the starting point. Then I'm going, and this would follow the ending part, obviously. So just copy this. But here I say plus 10, not plus 6. Why? Because you see, the glowing part that I have is 4 pixels, not 6 pixels. So I wanted to move it another 4 pixels. So we say 6 plus 4, which is 10. We just write 10 here, times 6 times scale, and the Y position. You can pause the video and look at the code and try to understand what is going on here. All right. Then that's it, actually. If we run the game, everything should work. But if we run the game and destroy candies, nothing will happen because scale is not moving. So in order to make scale change, we want to add a code and say set the scale to change. So we want to say, for example, and we can set the scale to be the points, but if we do that, the scale, the bar would be jumping each time we destroy a candy. And that is not beautiful. I want the bar to be moving smoothly whenever we for example, we take 10 points. I don't want the bar to jump 10 pixels immediately. I want it to go pixel by pixel until it reaches 10 pixels. In order to do that, we can easily say if scale is less than global dot points. Okay, so if scale is less than the, let's say the point, we get global points to be 10. And scale is 10 at the moment. Then we get 10 points, so global points would become 20, but scale is still 10. We want it to increment very, very slowly to reach the additional 10. So we would say scale plus equals 0.05, let's say. Now, all we have to do is come to object candy in the destroy event, and we want to change this. We want to increment by the candy point. Now we can make this a global variable, but I don't want to do that. Instead, I would say object brain dot candy point, and this would make it work. Now if I try and run the game, you see the progress bar just progressed very slowly. Now if I see, if I'm every time we match candies, the progress bar moves very smoothly towards the end. Now, obviously, we'll have to set a limit for the bar and stop him from going further than 300 pixels. We will put that later. But you see, this is the glowing part here, and it's just a fancy thing. You see, if I make it a comment, the glowing part. You see, this is how the progress bar looks like without the glow. You see, this is how it moves. All right. So now this is it for now for this part. Yeah, I think the rest would be in the next video. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.